Sir, just let me know when we can start.
Yes, we can start.
Yeah, Hannah, go ahead. Start.
All right. All right. A very good afternoon to everyone present here. My name is Hannah Sarsujan, and I'm a third-year student here at SCMC. Welcome to the second day of today's event, the second half of today's event. And it gives me a great pleasure to welcome you to this, the changing landscapes of Indian media. This is a series of lectures and events on the digitalization of Indian media from a variety of different perspectives, from academic perspectives, industry, as well as retrospective film events. On the occasion of the collaboration between the Symbiosis Center for Media and Communication and the Birmingham City University, UK, this week is basically an organized week of events and discussions around the theme of the changing landscapes of Indian media. As a second part of today's event, we have with us SMM Osaja, who will be taking us on a journey by tracing the history of Indian cinema by introducing to us the intricacies of the history of the Bombay film industry. He would be doing this through the exhibition of exceptional examples of film memorabilia. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you, sir. Sir is a renowned film historian, an author, a collector of memorabilia, as well as a memorabilia archivist. He has also been writing on cinema since his days in college. Initially, a TV software executive on many popular shows, he later joined Ozians, India's premier auction house for art and cinema. His cinema memorabilia collection is considered to be one of the single largest private archive in the country. His debut books, Bollywood in Posters 2009, and his second book, Bollywood, The Films, the Songs and the Stars, were both released by Amitabh Bachchan. Sir is currently the Senior Vice President of Fantico, the premier NFT platform, and his next book, The Bachchans, is releasing this year. It also gives me great pleasure to introduce Professor Rajendra Dutra, the Professor of Cultural Studies and Creative Industries, Innovation and Enterprise from the Faculty of Arts, Design and Media from the Birmingham City University. So with that, sir, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Anna. That was very kind of you. See, Indian cinema has been a fascinating journey in terms of its entire content, if you look at it. We started in 1931 with the silent cinema, and although the first silent film is widely acknowledged to be Raja Harishan by Dada Saheb Phalke, however, there was another film called Pundalik, which was canned before Raja Harishan. And it was essentially a play where static cameras were used and it was canned. So it was not shot like a film. That is why it has been discounted. And the first film of Indian cinema is considered to be Phalke's Raja Harishan. Had this not been the case, it would have been Pundalik as the first film. Anyway, that journey begins in 1913. And see, initially, when in the late 18th century, the film started coming, releasing. Most of the films which released were all Hollywood films, films from abroad, and they were silent films, and they were very popular. But no Indian film was ever made. So that was what Phalke did was fascinating. And actually, you know, this idea of making a film came to Phalke when he saw a film on Jesus Christ. And he was so fascinated that he repeatedly, sat in the theaters and saw 3 to 4 shows simultaneously, one after the other. And he was so impressed with the idea that, that single film gave him the idea of turning a producer and director and launching India's first silent film, which he did. He went abroad and then he came back and then he borrowed money from so many people, and the whole journey is there online if you see, and that's how this Raja Harishchandra was created. Another thing of that is fascinating is that Indian society was very reluctant when it comes to cinema in terms of acceptability. Like there was some kind of a stigma attached to uh, cinema in those days, because of which initially, if you look at the films are either mythologicals or they are based on folk tales. The themes are very widely acceptable in the society. Such themes were deliberately taken up by the producers and directors because it was important for them to find acceptability in the Indian society, because people used to look down upon cinema in those days. So like an onslaught of Western culture, kind of that logic was there in some way. So to dilute that, the producers and directors who initially took up the form studios and started making films, they realized that if we make films based on folk tales and based on mythology, based on religious themes, at least the society would be more positive towards uh, this genre. And that is what happened. Slowly and gradually, people realize that this is one medium which has been Indianized, and we can literally live those moments in those 3 hours or 2 hours and watch these films and experience the whole thing that we have read over the ages on cinema. And in the silent cinema, uh, initially the women were not uh, uh, widely accepted and widely available to act. So if you look at the initial films of from 1913 to 1915-16, most of the female roles were done by males, because females were reluctant to to go ahead and act. So men used to don a female clothing and they used to play female characters. Then slowly, as the idea of cinema gained ground in India, of course, a lot of studios germinated, lot of actors came up, and the initially, if you look at Kolhapur was a place where actually 3-4 studios came up. Baburao Painter is one of the finest examples of one such giant who not only produced directed films but also gave influenced them in multiple ways. Like he was the art director also, he was the script writer also, multifaceted personality. He is the guy who groomed V. Shantaram, who eventually made some of the finest films of early 30s. And of course, he was a partner in Prabhas Studios, Pune, which is famous for one of the finest batch of films which came out in the 30s. But simultaneously, there were other people also who were making good films, like Ardeshir Irani of Imperial. Then there is Madan Theatres in Calcutta. Then there were filmmaking companies in Lahore. Then there were filmmaking companies in Calcutta. So, of course, Pune was there, and Bombay. So these were the centers of initial cinema movement that took us forward, and the entire journey of silent cinema ends in 1931 with Ardeshir Irani's Alamara. Now, Alamara and Shirin Farhad were started simultaneously. In fact, Shirin Farhad started first, and Alamara was started right after Shirin Farhad. Shirin Farhad was produced by Madan Studios, Calcutta. And Alamara, of course, is Imperial Cinema, Bombay. So both the films raced, and interestingly, it is Alamara which was completed first, and it is considered to be India's first talkie. And right after Alamara, Shirin Farhad was released. So that is the second talkie of Indian cinema. And after the talkie movement, yes, there was a flood of, uh, production houses and studios, but those studios were all, some of the studios were so powerful that, they controlled the stars. Stars were on payrolls of the studios. That was the system. The actual star system that came prevalent in the late 30s and early 40s, that is the system that actually broke the hegemony of the studio systems. However, there were a lot of studios. Like if you if you look at the early talkie movement, then there is of course uh, Prabha Studios. Then there is Bombay Talkies. There is Madan Theatre. There is Ranjit Studios. So multiple studios were formed, and they were responsible for mostly about, I think, 50% of the films that were being produced, maybe more. And of all the films that were being produced, the most technically polished films came from Bombay Talkies. Bombay Talkies is one studio which had all the foreign technicians. It's most of the films were directed by Franz Osten. And there was Joseph Washing, who was the cinematographer. They were all German. They had migrated from Germany, and the founder of the Bombay Talkies, Himanshu Rai, he was such a giant visionary that, after making Karma, which was his first film, which he made with Devika Rani, he created the foundation for Bombay Talkies. And because in Karma he used the foreign technicians, he got them all from Germany, and they all settled in Bombay. And that's how Bombay Talkies flourished with one of the finest technical quality that you see in those films, in the films of that era. They came from Bombay Talkies. And of course, there were so many genres which were being made in those days. But again, the dominant genre of the 30s was mythology and folk tales, because those were the surefire success formulas in those days. As we move from the 30s to the 40s, there has been, you can see a sudden focus on the stars. Ashok Kumar and Prithviraj Kapoor were the biggest stars of 30s as we reach the late 30s. And of course, the emergence of KL Sehgal from Calcutta Studios. So these three were the top stars. And among females, there was Devika Rani, of course. Then there was this Leela Chitnis. There were so many top stars of late 30s, early 40s, which really, enrich Indian cinema. If you look at each of these stars' journey, it is a study in itself,
I just want to, yes, Mr. Osja, hi. I
Hi.
just want to ask you, I mean, for you, you're an archivist. And why is it important to you to ensure that these film memorabilia is collected, preserved? Why is it important to you?
That's a very good question. See, in India, the National Film Archives was formed in the mid 60s. And by the time it was formed, most of the silent cinema movies and early 30s movies and even some of the 40s movies were lost forever. And because of the delay in forming a film archive officially, whatever is lost, but whatever remains has to be collected and preserved for posterity. Of course, National Film Archives is doing whatever from government patronage they do, but there have been individuals like Firoz Rangunwala, like Bunny Reuben, like Mr. Joshi, so many other old collectors that were there in the 70s who really preserved and who, from their own whatever little that they earned, they preserved old film memorabilia like posters, magazines, photographs. I want to show the various categories of memorabilia. Can I share?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me know if you're having any issues with screen sharing.
How do I go to my computer?
Can you see at the bottom there's a share screen like in a green button?
Yeah, I clicked on that. That's showing me some video, computer, audio, portion screen, PowerPoint.
So just select, so if you have the PowerPoint open, then select PowerPoint.
No, I want to show photographs.
Okay, so then desktop, I mean, wherever you have, wherever the image is.
How do I read the image?
Click on screen.
Click on what?
Okay, so you have, once you click on share screen, you're getting different options, right?
Yeah,
One is that do you want to share a particular screen? Do you want to share a particular window? So just click on share screen.
Yeah, I clicked. It's showing basic and advanced.
Yeah, so desktop.
And it's showing screen, iPad.
Yeah,
Not
so
showing
click
laptop.
on screen. Click on screen. And so we will be able to see your entire computer screen. And then once you open the images on your computer, we will be able to see that.
Yeah, you can see that.
Yes, we can see your computer screen.
So how do I go to my computer then?
Now on your computer, go to the images that you want to show and open them, and we will be able to see them.
Oh, okay. You can see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Oh. Can you see?
Yes, we can.
Okay, now this is the poster of Tansen. KL Sehgal, one of the top stars of 30s and 40s, early 40s. And I come to lobby cards. These were displayed inside the cinema theater. This is the Mughal Azam lobby card. Can you see?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. See the beauty of this card. This is the Sagina lobby card. There's the Shahenshah lobby card. We now go to magazine covers, another very interesting area. That's the Dilip Kumar cover of Filmfare, 50s. There's the Gabbar Singh cover, Film World, 1977. There's the Film India cover. Now, Film India was one of the very, very famous magazines of 30s, 40s, 50s. It continued till 60s, but they changed the name to Mother India. All the covers of Film India were designed by S.M. Pandit, and he was one of the top poster designers of his time. That's the Cineblast cover of Amitabh Bachchan, 1982. It's a Raj Kapoor cover of a South Indian magazine, 1962. Now we come to photographs. These are film stills. That's Nutan, the profile. That's the famous Aradhana pose of Rajesh Khanna and Sharmila Tagore. This film created a sensation and actually, responsible for making Rajesh Khanna a superstar. One of his biggest hits, after Anand, of course. That's Asha Parekh in the early 60s. That's Dilip Kumar. That's Hema Malini.
These are actual prints that you have, right?
These are the original photographs that I have in the collection, collected over the years, over the last 30 years. You won't see them on any online platform. That's Gurudat. That's Madhubala, one of the most beautiful actresses of her time. And look at the coincidence that she was born on the 14th of February. That's Amitabh Bachchan and Parveen Babi in Amar Akbar Anthony, one of the biggest hits of 1970s. That's the profile of Amitabh in his peak in the early 70s. That's Bindu, the vamp. That's Devanand. That's a studio photograph.
I think the last one was Bhushan Kumar, not Devanand.
Devanand. Bharat Bhushan. Before that was Bharat Bhushan. That's Dharmendra. So there are several items in memorabilia that people collect, like posters, lobby cards, photographs, glass slides, and of course magazines. So, and when you collect, then you read. Supposing you pick up a magazine or a booklet, that's how you gain knowledge. How that film was made, who shot that film, who were the stars in the film, whether it was a success or a failure. So when you look at cinema, you also look at several other aspects like it is a reflection of that era. You can look at the fashion of that era. You can look at technology, what kind of phones they used in those days. So there are several, cinema is a reflection of the society in a particular era. So people can always go back to cinema to learn from it, whether it's not just a question of social issues being projected there. There are so many other aspects to cinema that are important.
What is it? You mentioned the glass slide. What is the glass slide?
Glass slides were still projections which were done in the interval of a film, so that people see a coming soon poster.
What is the oldest film memorabilia you have?
See, I have several silent era photographs, but something that is very close to my heart is a photo of Dada Saheb Phalke, which I discovered in a old go down of a distributor, which is I think perhaps the only surviving original photo of Dada Saheb Phalke. He's standing with, I think, Mr. Kirloskar, who was one of the theatre doyens of that era.
Can you share that with us?
Must be 1928 or 1929. No, I can't share it because it's not there with me. It's there in the go down. But it's a very, very prized possession that I have.
You also have production stills from Raja Harish Chandra.
Yeah, of course. Those I have, but some of the stills are already there, even the National Film Archives. So, see, I also look at, as a collector, one has to look at the novelty value. and it's very difficult to, get through certain things. Like, you will not believe, there's a very famous film of Sanjeev Kumar and Sharmila Tagore called Mausam. It was directed by Gulzar and it released in the 70s. The poster is not there anywhere in the country. I've been searching for that poster for almost 25 to 30 years and I couldn't get it. So there are so many other things, which we have lost, even if they are of the 70s. So you can imagine, how much is left of the 30s and the 40s and the 50s, But however, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm asking, what is your most difficult to get that you have managed to acquire?
The poster of guide. That is a prized possession. Plus, there is a poster of, there's one poster that I want you to see. It's a very, very special poster. The poster of Mahal. This is one film which gave life to 3 top stars. It made Madhubala a superstar overnight. It reaffirmed Ashok Kumar's sway at the box office. It launched Kamal Amrohi as a director. And most importantly, it launched Lata Mangeshkar to top form in playback singing, with Aayega Aane Wala being widely regarded as her first super hit song. Look at the poster. They were all hand designed. These are all paintings. That's Raj Kapoor's Chalia, designed by D.R. Bhosle. That's the iconic Diwar poster. This was designed by Divakar Karkare, one of the finest poster designers of the 70s. This is the famous Pakiza Embrace, one of the finest posters of early 70s. That's Dawn. Of course, it was remade later on with Shah Rukh Khan. There's the iconic Barsat pose of Raj Kapoor and Nargis, which is also the logo of RK Films.
You were going to show us the guide poster that you are very proud of. Do you have it with you on the system? No.
I doubt the guide poster is there, but it's a very famous poster of Devanand with the shawl. That particular poster.
Also, I think the guide poster, I mean, they would make different posters for different, like for the Indian market, and if it was being sent internationally, yes?
No. The poster designs that were used to be made for each film used to be 3 to 4 designs max. But the same design were distributed across the country to all the distribution centers.
I'm going to ask you, in terms of film memorabilia, you have lobby cards and you've got glass sides and posters, and what do you think is most representative of the production of a film?
That's a very difficult question. A poster, for example, shows the vision of the director in a single frame. So that is a representation of a film in some way. Then
okay, is there some, some poster designers? I mean, I think you're one of the few people who actually knows the names of poster designers, right? So are there certain poster designers who are associated with certain directors? I mean, did directors have a particular style in terms of design?
See, a lot of directors have preferred certain designers, but each director used to, give a brief to the designer. So eventually what came out on the posters was the brief of the director interpreted by the designer. So see, designer is only doing an interpretation, but yes, of course, the art element used to be unique for each designer. But there were several fantastic designers like Pandit Ramkumar Sharma, like Diwakar Karkare, like D.R. Mosley that I showed you. There's another very famous Diwar poster that I'll show you. It is one of the finest done by Diwakar Karkare. And he's, in fact, he is credited with the angry young man look of Amitabh in the 70s. Yeah, can you see this?
Yes.
Is it visible?
Yes. I just want to ask you, I mean, in terms of the eras, cinematic eras, is there a certain in terms of colors that would be represented, like say maybe in the 70s or 80s, is more pop, brighter colors? Was there a color palette that you would associate in terms of specific decades within Indian cinema?
No. Are you speaking in terms of the poster design, the publicity design?
Yes.
No. See, even for silent cinema, the film posters were always colored. A lot of people ask me this question, But see, the film reel is a black and white reel. Why would they make a poster in black and white, It has never happened.
No, in terms of if there is, let's say, if there is somebody like, we are having the film retrospective for Hrishikesh Mukherjee, right? So somebody like Hrishikesh Mukherjee versus somebody like Manmohan Desai, is there a certain stylistic difference in terms of visualization?
It all depends on the theme. Like Hrishikesh Mukherjee made a wide variety of movies. His themes were always completely different. Like if you look at Alap, that is such a depressing film. And if you look at a Chupke Chupke or a Golmaal, they are laugh riots. They are considered to be classics even today. So it is the theme that decides the poster. So if it is a Chupke Chupke, it will be the poster would be a laugh riot. If the theme is grave, then the poster of course will be very subtle. So that is the crux of the themes.
Okay. So you were talking about booklets. What are booklets? I mean, for the rest, I have already seen some of the memorabilia that you have. So can you just tell the rest what the book?
I'll just show you some booklets before I tell you. That's a Sarhad, Devanand, Suchitra Sen film. That's Takdeer. It is Nargis's debut film as a actor, as a lead actress by Mehboob Khan. That's Aapki Kasam, a classic of Rajesh Khanna. So the film booklet used to be a small booklet which was distributed across the country to various distributors and publicists. The cover used to be the poster, If it used to be about 4 or 5 pages, and if you flip the cover, then there used to be synopsis, credits, and of course all the songs. So in one booklet, you get all the information possible about a particular film. So a booklet is a very, very informative memorabilia for any collector. And of course, these days booklets are not being made. So the whole idea of making booklets and distributing them for publicity, it all disappeared by, I think, in the last 10 years. Otherwise, you get, for each film released, there is a booklet.
Mr. Osaja, would you like to tell us a little bit about the memorabilia from the studio era, especially the three big ones, New Theatres, Prabhat, and Bombay Talkies?
Of course. See, New Theatres, there used to be a lot of Bengali artists which were associated with New Theatres. So the New Theatre booklets used to be very interesting in terms of the wide variety of artworks that used to be there on the covers. And of course, in New Theatres, what I've noticed is that most of the films that they took up used to be having some literary background. Some book used to be adapted to film. Like they did a lot of Sarat Chandra films. So that is one aspect that was not common with the other studios. Then of course, some of the finest minds of early 30s were nurtured by New Theatres. For example, Prithviraj Kapoor, K.L. Sehgal. Even Raj Kapoor's initial years were in New Theatres when he was a teenager, where he learned cinema, under his father and watching his father perform in those films. And when in Bombay Talkies, Bombay Talkies was one of the most powerful production houses of its time. So of course, the quality of the booklets and the quality of their posters and the way the stills were shot and the frames were shot in those stills, those are very, very uniquely Bombay Talkies. Prabhat, of course, because it is from Pune and there's a lot of Marathi culture influence on Prabhat films. And of course, a lot of films were linked to Marathi literature as well. So you can see a lot of culture there in those films.
So I'm going to quickly start the question answer session. So those of you who have a question, you can either post your questions in chat, or you can just raise your hand and ask Mr. Osaja a question.
Hi, Supriti. I have one.
Hi,
Mr. Sajja. Thank you for that. Would you mind saying something a little bit about the stills photographer? So the person, usually it was a man, maybe there were some women, I don't know, but usually the people who were on the set when the action was taking place, when the films were taking place, and then the photos were clicked, and then these pictures were chosen by the directors or producers, which were then, some of them went on to become the posters. Could you say a little bit about that, and if you have any experience of the stills photograph process before they became the posters?
See, for each film, there used to be stills which can be divided into 3 categories. There are working stills, there are film stills, and there are studio stills. Some producers, what they did is they used to call the hero and the heroine in a studio, and they used to do a photo session of the hero and the heroine in the film's costumes, and out of that photo session, the poster used to get created. So that element is aside. Otherwise, there are broadly 2 categories: the film stills and the working still. In the working stills, of course, the directors, you can see the director directing the stars for a particular shot or something. And there used to be a dedicated photographer for a film, and after the film used to get completed, the entire album of continuity was created for the film. So you used to have in that album, you used to have all the stills of most of the scenes of the film.
So have you managed to get any of these continuity books like within your collection? I mean, because that would be something, yeah.
Yes.
So what is, I'm actually curious. I mean, do you have a digitized version of a continuity book with working stills?
I have digitized continuity stills.
Like, is that something like you have it on your computer that you can show that, okay, when this is the continuity book of the 50s, or, you know,
The continuity, there used to be continuity stills, like, for example,
no, because as somebody who's worked in the film industry, continuity is one of the worst things that, you know, in terms of tasks to do. So I'm quite curious to see how they were doing it. Like, say, I don't know.
can you rephrase your question?
Yeah, do you have images of continuity stills that you can share with us?
Continuity stills used to be film stills. Just a minute, I'll just show you.
So I think that the question that Rajinder was asking is, before they become the poster, right? During the production of the film, there are stills being taken by the photographer, and some of them would be working stills, some of them will be film stills, right? So within, how easy is it to, or do you have access to these type of the working stills films, not as the final product, but the in progress product?
Like this came out of the continuity still. You know, it's a film still, but it is the job of the continuity still photographer. He shot this pose while the film was being shot. But this particular photo you will find in the continuity stills as well.
Can you talk to us a little about, you know, what it takes to ensure the preservation of these, you know, posters? I mean, I'm sure paper and paint, ink, is there a difference in terms of how you preserve these?
See, the posters were printed on the poorest quality paper. So it is most of the old posters that you find somewhere, you know, most of them will have fold marks. They'll be cracking at the folds. They'll have, you know, they'll be torn. So for that, there are few agencies. If you give the poster to the agency, they restore the whole thing. They do it all professionally. They line the whole poster. They, even if the poster has holes, they will you know, make sure that those holes are not visible. So it's a complete process of restoration that is done by professionals, and such professionals are also there in intact, you know, and there's some private people also who do
it. Thank you. Of course, I mean, it's one thing to actually talk about film memorabilia, but actually, you know, to see a photograph from like 50 years ago, there is a difference, right? I don't have any more questions, so I will like to, before, you know, I ask Dr. Beduria, is there anything that you would like to tell the rest, I mean, those who are attending, about film memorabilia, why you think it's important, and in terms of its representation of not just cinema, but even a particular time and space, right?
Film memorabilia is important because cinema, as I told you earlier, is an element of Indian popular culture. And its journey is important because it is a reference point of so many things, you know, whether it is politics, whether it is art, whether it is music, whether it is fashion, you know, whether it is technology. So people have a reference point, plus it is a heritage. It is a heritage that is so common to all of us and so basic. So if we lose it, then you know, it's very sad. So I'm not saying everybody should collect, but this element of there should be awareness that film heritage needs to be preserved and valued. So there's certain agencies who are doing it, like you have Film Heritage Foundation, you have National Film Archive, you have individuals like me who are collectors. But beyond this, I think there needs to be an awareness for this cause, that cinema heritage needs to be preserved and celebrated.
And I want to ask you about NFTs, and now that NFTs have begun, what is it for you as a collector, and in terms of access for the rest?
See, NFT is a new space for collectors. And because it's digital and it is in cryptocurrency and it is in the virtual world, and actually you don't have any tangible object in hand, a lot of people are apprehensive whether they should go ahead and invest and whether, it is worth it or not. So, see, it is in the process. Even the government has, although they have put a 30% tax, but still there is not enough clarity from the government on whether whether cryptocurrency and its related transactions are valid in India and how much acceptable are they. But having said that, it is a new phenomena and a lot of people are venturing into it. A lot of collectors are putting their collectibles in a digital form and a lot of people are buying also. It's a slow thing, but I think it's catching up, and the future is digital, I'm sure.
Yes, thank you. And you're working with Pantico. I'm going to ask Dr. Beduria Chakravarti. He's the HOD of our audiovisual department at SCMC, and he's going to close the ceremony today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Professor Malhotra. Mr. Asaja, it was very nice to hear the discussion on the memorabilia. We live in a time where, due to all the digital, the plethora of digital films and other things, OTTs that are available to our students, it is very difficult for them to have find any sort of connection to what we call film history, the entire lineage of film history. So it is even more important today to go back to these things, to take a look at things like a lobby card, a publicity booklet, a song booklet, posters, the incredible art of hand-drawn posters, which is almost gone, right? And to appreciate what is gone, because they may never come back again. And I thank you so much for giving us a glimpse of that world and the dedication and sincerity and the work that goes into saving those things, saving those forgotten things, and to make them part of our collective memory again. So thank you so much. And we hope to see more of these memorabilia, of course, whenever we get a chance. We have seen some of them online before. So thank you so much. And on that note, I'd like to end this program.
Thank you so much. Thank you.